Okay. So this is your page for today. Okay, so I glued on this first page here, and then on the back, the little half sheet that you did here. Okay, so we have another construction today. This is 3 out of 4, so tomorrow we'll learn our last one. Alright, so we're going to start on this page, and today it's front and back, so you don't have 2 pages. Alright, so the instructions are, on the bottom we're going to measure out this segment here. Okay, so we have our measurement. Alright, you are going to take the metal part of your triangle and put it down on one side. Okay, you are going to mark it on the opposite side where it intersects with the other line here, so across. Okay, you're going to keep your compass the same measurement, and you're going to come to the other side. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to make it intersect with that opposite line. It's not going to be the same every time, which is fine. It's only going to be the same if it's an equilateral triangle. So you're making your arc on the opposite side here. So you should have 2 arcs now that you've made. Okay, so now you are going to make a perpendicular bisector for these 2 sides, which we did last week. So I'm going to turn my page. I'm looking at this side first. I'm going to measure out a little bit more than half of this line here. So right now you're trying to cut this line in half right here, this small line. Okay, so we have right here, waiting for y'all. Okay, so now I'm going to put my metal part on both sides of the line, and I'm going to make an arc just on the top part today. So both sides you're going to make an arc here. You don't need to do on the bottom because you're just going to connect it to the opposite angle. So we measured out a little bit more than half, right? And then I made an arc on this side of the line, and then I connect where they connect here, where I made my first arc, I'm making another one there. Okay, so from here, you're going to get your ruler, pencil here, connect your ruler to the opposite angle, and you're going to connect it. Any questions on that part? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the other side now. So I'm going to move on to this side here. So again, you're going to measure out a little bit more than half of where this line intersects and then the end of the segment here. So these 2 points. So the measurement should be different because it's a different line and it's a little bit longer. So I have my measurement. I'm going to put my metal part on both of these points that I created here, which is my arc and the beginning of the triangle. So I'm going to put my metal part here, and I'm going to make an arc, and then I'm going to put my metal part on the other side and make an arc. Questions, or do we understand how I got that? Okay, from there you are going to take your ruler and connect it to the opposite side. So both of these are right angles, okay? Those are called altitudes. So where the altitudes intersect, that is called your orthocenter. Okay, so we're going to continue on. I'm going to do the front part with you. So on number 2, let's try again. We're going to measure out. I'm going to measure out this smaller leg to make sure it fits. So I'm going to measure out the one. It doesn't matter what segment you choose. Okay, so I'm going to put my metal part down, and you're going to make an arc on the opposite side. So this one's going to be low because it's a smaller line. So mine barely makes a line, but it does connect. Then you're going to do it the same thing to this side. So again, it barely touches, but it does intersect. Maybe here and here. Alright, so now you need to make a perpendicular bisector for both of those points. So these are going to be smaller because it's a smaller segment. So you're going to measure out a little bit more than half. Maybe like right here. And then we're just going to make an arc on the outside. So one here, and then one here. So very small space there. So I made my arc on both sides of the segment. Now this one's going to be even smaller because it's a smaller segment. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. All right. So I then connect my points. So again, these form right angles where they come out of the line, and then that's where they intersect there. So it's going to look different on all your triangles. Alright, let's move on to number 3. Okay, my first step is to measure out one of the legs of your triangle. So we'll do this one on the bottom, see how that comes out when we do a longer one. Alright, so that's your first step. Okay, now this was on, I saw this. See how it does not, I mean it's too large for this line, kind of? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so here the line's not going to reach because it's too long. So you are going to just extend the triangle out a little bit to where it does reach. So you're just going to connect it to the existing line there. So that from there you should be able to make your mark. So I'm just making this line a little bit longer to where I'm able to make my arc. So I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to make a line here. And then on this one's going to be the same problem. You're going to have to extend your line out this way. So I'm extending this line out here. So these are my 2 marks. Let's see how this works out. So just to be clear here, this line connects to this line. And this one connects here. Just so we know what intersections I'm doing and what marks I'm doing. Okay, so now that I have my 2 marks, I'm going to make my bisector. So again, this is my green line, so I need to cut this line in half. So I'm going to measure out a little bit more than half of the green line, I'd say maybe about right here, a little bit smaller than that. Bless you. Okay, so now I'm going to make an arc on the outside here, and then also on the opposite side to where I have an intersection. So this arc is for these 2 points here. So I'm going to connect my point to my vertex. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing to the pink line. This is my line here, so I want a little bit more than half of that line. Okay, and then I'm going to make an arc on the top. Okay, once you have your intersection there, you're going to connect that to the opposite. All right. Okay, let's try again. All right, let's do one more together, and then we'll see if you can work on some by yourself. I'm just like unsure. Okay. I do that this one is too small. Here, here. All right, let's try this one. Okay, so measure out one of your legs. Okay, and then on one side of that leg, you're going to make an arc on the opposite side of your triangle. So here. Wait. No. Actually, no, that one needs to go. That needs to be this line, because it's opposite of this line here. And then on this side is going to mark this side, which is going to be too long. So I'm going to extend it just a little bit. So I extended this line here, and I made my arc on this opposite side, which was here. Okay, so I'm going to do the green line first, measuring out about 2/3 of that line. Okay, and then you're going to make an arc there. And then on the other side. Okay, so now we need to do the smaller one here at the bottom, but first we'll connect that point to this corner. Okay, so from there you're going to do the smaller line, measure out a little bit more than half, which that segment is very small. And we are going to make our arc. Here. And here. Very small. So once I make that, I'm going to connect it to the opposite side. And then that should be my point. Alright, let's do one more together because I feel like y'all are kind of confused still. So let's look at number 9. This one's a bigger triangle. It's easier to work with. So let's measure out one of the sides. Okay, so this... with this, I should be able to make an arc on the opposite side, which is not going to work. It's too long. Okay, what I need to do is make an arc to this line. So since that's too long, I'm going to extend my line. Okay, so I'm making my arc up here. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to extend it out to that point. Okay, so I need to do the same thing on this side, which again is not long enough. This line right here, I should be able to make an arc on it. So I'm going to extend that line out. So where I'm making my points, those are my segments that I'm trying to cut in half. That's why I'm using a color to kind of identify them. So that is going to be the pink line. And then that's my green line. Okay, so when you're looking at them as separate segments, now you're just thinking of trying to cut them in half. So if I'm just looking at the green one, I'm measuring out a little bit more than half of that line. Okay. So I'm going to make an arc. I'm going to put my compass down on both sides. I'm going to make an arc on the top over here on this side, and then again on the top but on the opposite side. So I went here and then I went here. So I'm going to then draw my line to the opposite angle, which that does actually look like a right angle. Some of them didn't on the front, but that one looks like a right angle. So I have my first one. Now I need to do the pink one. So again, you're focusing just on that segment, trying to cut it in half. So I measured out about 2/3 of this line, and again I'm going to make an arc on the top on both sides. Okay, and I'm going to cut that in half there. Okay, which again, that should be a right angle when I make my line. So that would be considered your orthocenter. Okay, you can pick any triangle you want, and I want you to try to do one on your own or two on your own.